Great. People are still trickling in, so I'll give it just another moment here. All right, well, let's, I think people are still trickling in, but let's go ahead and get started on this meeting today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the September 2025 Employer Check-in. We appreciate your attending the meeting so that we can inform you and provide you with updates regarding the STARS project. And remember that to check the STARS pension system webpage for information and the recording of these employer check-ins, as the September meeting has been posted, and we will go ahead and get the October one posted after we get done here today, or however long it takes somebody with the expertise to do that, to get that posted to the webpage. Today, we will cover STARS project update and the demonstration regarding employer and local board self-service logins. So let's get started. The STARS project update for September. System testing. The team has tested over 3,000 scenarios in STARS, and performance testing for size of files. The test successfully uploaded those larger employer files, like those contribution files for the larger employers. They were successfully uploaded, and the speed of those uploaded larger files. So remember, with the larger files, it will take a few extra minutes to upload, but it was actually timely in getting those files, those larger files, tested and completed. So we're on track for that. So that's a good thing. Because even when I was testing the contribution files for some of our larger employers, it was it took a few extra minutes to get that done, and it was within reason, and it was successful. So I'm glad that they were able to confirm that. So parallel testing, which is end-to-end testing on key functions, is scheduled for October and November. And the pilot program. So we are continuing to work on the soft launch pilot program. Currently, we're targeting December for that to take place. And based upon timing and resource constraints, we can't offer this to all employers, but we will be reaching out to a cross-section of employers that have a broad range of varied complexities to participate in the soft launch. And don't forget, keep in mind that training right now is still targeted for end of February and all of March for the employer training sessions, which will all be virtual. And we will have more details later regarding the scheduling of those sessions. Okay, let's keep this moving. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to move on to the STARS demonstration for this month, which is the employer and local board self-service logins. So I will need to share my screen. So I got this right. Okay, so what I've got here right now is the view for the local board self-service. And this view here that you see now is the same view both the local board self-service area and the employer self-service area will view when logging in to those systems. And that is what happens in the test environment that we've got. So hang on. All right, here we go. So the information that I'm working with today is all scrambled data. So that's why I'm able to show this environment today to you. And we're going to go into, again, the local board self-service view. And that's by clicking here on this ID. The 9,000s are going to be the local board IDs. And it's going to bring up the home screen. And the home screen, again, for the local board self-service menu view, we are still building out this area. So this is what I can show you so far that we have regarding the local board menu. So under the home page, there's going to be some shortcuts that will provide quick access to some of the menu items on here. And then documents. So on the documents menu option, it's providing a secure area to upload documents related to local board duties. So that could be minutes. It can be perhaps disability information, variety of things that the board might need to communicate with our office. And messages. So secure message environment. It's a secure way for our local boards to communicate with public safety. And again, in the secure message area, it does provide the message window, and you can also attach a file here in order to supply us with information. And again, it goes back and forth. This is a secure message area where we can communicate back and forth within STARS in order to, instead of the email, to know that this is a secure environment for that to occur. Sessions. I'm excited about this one. Sessions is a new term in STARS that we'll be working with, and it's the location for future training topics and enrollment for those sessions. So this is a nice view, a nice environment that we'll be able to work with in STARS in the future. Local board information. So the local board secretary will be updating the information on this site, which includes the address, contact information, local board members, and terms. So updating this, the local board members and terms is required by statute. So this will be a nice way of updating the information without having to complete a form. And the information is viewable by both the local boards and our office, so that way it keeps everybody up to date. And contact us is right now, it's just basic information regarding contacting, how to contact public safety retirement. Okay. Now I'm going to move over to a new view. This is a view of the employer self-service area. And I'm going to back up a little bit because I did miss part of my initial opening when we went to this slide. So I just want to let everybody know that with the employer self-service and local board self-service, each of these areas have administrators that will provide access to these self-service areas for staff. So the employer self-serve administrator upon initial setup will be the finance director and the HR director. And the local board self-service administrator will be the local board secretary. So what'll happen is upon the launching of STARS, the administrator will log in to the self-service area, and then that administrator can configure the access for staff members and assign permissions based upon the staff member's role and what they'll need access to in the employer self-service area. So as we are looking at the employer self-service environment, so this is nice because right now they have, it's a little bit more built out, which is great to show that on the home screen, there's going to be some shortcuts for the processes the employer may have to complete on a frequent basis, such as adding a new member. So processing a new hire here will bring up the roster, but it also right away brings up the new hire wizard area that will walk you through the information that you'll need to add regarding that new hire in order to then make sure that that individual is added to the roster. So it's nice that there's a wizard to have this help through those steps in order to add that new hire. And the roster that we're here, now that we're here, a new term in STARS. There's going to be a few of them that we'll all be learning as we start working in STARS. So roster is one that this is the view of all employees that have membership under the employer. So the roster also provides an area, again, like I said, to add a new employee. But by going directly to this menu option, it does have that add new employee here, which again will bring up that wizard in order to walk through adding that new individual to the roster. And the roster also has a feature that the employer can use to filter information. So there are some filters here. So you can actually look up individual members or break out the report to just look up a certain employment status. And then once that search is done, then you can always reset and it brings you back to the entire list of employees with that employer. And also under this feature, that information can be exported to a report. So that's a nice feature that you'll be able to utilize at your fingertips instead of reaching out to us like you more than likely have to do with some of the reports that you request that I know I've helped employers with. This information will be here for you to search and filter. The next menu option is policies. And again, new term to keep in mind. This is the cancer insurance plan. So this is a list of all employees for the cancer insurance plan. And again, this menu option does also provide for filters. So you can go in and filter the information to a certain item that you want to look for, or an individual, I think. And again, it allows you to reset back to the original view, and then so that way if you utilize that, then that's available also. Work reports. So work reports includes information about the contribution files that have been remitted. And if needed, the ability to generate a work report. The menu shows the contribution uploads per pay period ending. And the status of those reports that are or in what status those reports are in, as far as uploading them. One field to definitely keep in mind is the due date area here. The due date is when payment is due, or interest will be calculated if payment is not made after that date. The work report will also show the contribution code. So as we float through this page, you can see the different contribution codes and information there regarding the status of those amounts per contribution code. And again, we're going to go more into detail with regards to this information during the training. Again, this is just an overview of kind of what's available when employers and local boards log in to the self-service areas. And again, I said that there's an option here. So for those employers that do manually upload their contributions by pay period, you can generate a report here for the manually to be able to upload that, or generate an adjustment report. And the nice thing again, that is about this, there's a lot of information here, but it does provide that filter option to be able to view specific items that you're looking for. If you're researching something or looking for something, you can go ahead and filter it in this feature. And again, it does allow for the export of that information to a report. Payments. Click on it here. Payments, one of the main items here in the payment field is the bank account. This is where the bank account information will be set up at launch. So that way, this is where we were talking about how it's a ACH payment, and the information here, bank account information here is where the payment will be made from. Again, that's just one of the features of this page. It does allow to make a payment also. And again, you've got the filters here too. If there's a lot of information that's on this page that you need to filter it out and look for something, you do have that option to do that. Transactions. Transactions is the ledger of financial transactions is what this is, all financial history, such as work reports and cancer insurance billing. It will show open and closed transactions. You can view prepaid credits here. And again, a lot of information. It does have information again regarding the contribution codes that totals for each of those codes. It does have that filter feature also, which again is nice. So you're not overwhelmed by the information on this page, and you can look it up individually or by a certain status, and you have that option to do that. Let's see. Administration. Administration is where users are managed. So exiting users, add new users. There is a add employer user wizard that will walk you through the information that will be needed in order to set up that user. And employer information. This is the employer profile. What I like about this is that it does provide the joinder effective date, SysID, the employer type, just general information about the employer. It does have addresses, contact information, and then contacts that is linked to the user information that will be needed. And will, again, during training, we will go ahead and go into more detail regarding the steps that are needed in order to set up those users in this employer self-service area, and how to set up those roles and access. Imports. This is the area that contributions, demographics, and health insurance files will be uploaded here. So again, this is for those employers that do have those files that they create, and they need to add that import, to add that file for that contribution uploader for that demographic information or the health insurance files. There's a short wizard here that will walk you through the information that is needed in order to go ahead and get that import completed and update it and upload it to STARS. So this is a nice, couple of steps, information that will be needed. It will show the status of the file as it's gets uploaded and then verified and processed. And again, like I'm saying, this is just a short, quick overview of what the view is for that type of process that you'll be doing. We will go into detail during the training next year. Reports. This is a function by which any reports that have been developed on the business side that we would have built out for employers to run ad hoc. Initially at launch, there may be limited reports available, and the reports here would be available for all employers to choose to run within their individual employer self-service area. So the reports are more of a general nature. Just remember that if you want information regarding your membership, then you want to go to the roster and you want to utilize that filter option in order to get information that you're looking for regarding members. That will be available to you all the time in that case, so that way you can run those reports as needed. Documents. Similar to the local board side of the self-service area, this is an area for local boards, or for employers and for us to be able to upload information in a secure environment for viewing, as opposed to sending that information back and forth in email. It can go through STARS. Sessions, again, this is one of the ones I am excited about too, is because this is a location for future training and for enrollment in those sessions will be completed through this area here. I just did a little bit of it when we first started looking at building out the self-service areas. And I'm really excited to see this process happen, this menu option to provide information to employers and local boards. Secure message. Again, this is within STARS, both the employer and our office, we can communicate in a secure message fashion. And again, it would be the same view as what we saw in the local board self-service area, where you can message, we can message back and forth between public safety and the employer and attach files and know that it is in a secure environment within STARS. And contact us, again, basic information regarding public safety contact. So that is the local board and employer self-service areas. Again, this is not for training right now, but it's a good reference, resource and guides for planning for the future. And let me stop sharing here. And on that screen that was up previously, there is a list of the future meetings that we will be, future employer check-in meetings, and what the information, what demonstrations we will be doing. So in October, we do have the submitting the payroll files and contributions. So that is the next meeting, which will be held on Wednesday, October 15th at 1 p.m. And we will go ahead and cover, again, a summary of the process, so that you can get a view of how that would be happening for the upload. Again, submitting those files in that import menu option. So yeah, I hope you guys appreciated the demonstration. Again, it was a quick view of that menu in the employer self-service. And are there any questions that we can help you with?
Joann, there are several, actually more than several questions that have come in through the chat. So
Okay.
first question, dealing with the actual portal itself and accessing it through the web browsers. Will the new system work on all web browsers, or is there one preferred to work better than others?
I was just working on 2 separate web browsers, so I did not have a problem logging into using either one. I was with regards to that, so I don't believe that there will be a problem with the browsers that are used to view and to access the self-service areas, unless I don't know of something that you know of, Robert.
No, you're correct. Through our testing, we've been testing in multiple different browsers, and in each of those areas it's the same experience. So there isn't at this point any particular browser that works better than others, and there's no specific recommendation on browser use.
Yeah, I was using Chrome and Edge today when I was logging in.
And that was one of the follow-up questions as well.
Saw that one pop up.
There are some questions related to the files, and you talked about importing and things of that sort. There's a question related to, are we able to upload a demographic file instead of entering a new hire individually?
Right, so in the import menu item option to go into, when you are adding an import, that's where you're going to add the demographic file. The add import wizard for uploading a file does ask you what type of import that you're going to upload, and it's either a demographic, a contribution, or the health insurance. Right now, I can view demographic or contribution. So you'll let during in that wizard, you'll let the system know what type of file you're uploading.
Keeping on to the files and import process, for those of us that upload or that will be uploading contribution files through the import process, will it be the same format that's currently used, or will there be a new template?
So we've gone through the exercise of testing those contribution files previously. We did provide that contribution import file information, the spec document that shows that there was a slight change in those contribution files for uploading. So if you need that contribution format spec document, let me know or Harold know. And if you have not submitted that test file, please also check in with us, because we did quite a few contribution test files when we first started this project, but that was a couple years ago. So in the previous meetings, I've been kind of reminding employers to keep that test file handy, because that's what you're going to refer to when you go to get that contribution file built in order to upload to STARS. So let us know if you need that information or to test a file, please.
And that was another question about, is there a deadline to send test files?
I would probably say, just due to timing, before February, because we're going to start the training in late February and all of March. So you'll want to make sure that that file has been passed. Is what we were doing is we were testing the file, and we letting the employers know that it passed, that the format worked. So we can certainly do that for you. But I would say probably before February at least.
Awesome, thanks, Joann. A question related to administrator access. As you mentioned before, we are establishing initially the administrator role will be assigned to those that we have in our system currently identified as the finance director, the HR director for the employer self-service side of the house, and then for the local boards side, we have the local board secretary, who will be showing as the administrator for that particular portal. Question here is, if our directors do not want to be the administrators but want to designate someone else within the organization, can we do that?
Yes, that can be completed in that fashion. The initial go live, we were just trying to keep things accessible when we do launch for employers. But we're reviewing that. Well, let me back up a bit. We did already go through an exercise of requesting confirmation of the users that are currently noted in using our current system. And we were going to go ahead and provide access to those individuals in STARS. But we know that there's changes that occur in turnover. So we will be looking at going through that exercise again with regards to confirming those individuals who are going to need access initially when we do launch. So please watch for that. And then at that point, because now we're more familiar with, again, the administrator and how that's going to work, then at that point, we can go ahead and note who's going to be the administrator at launch. But even after that, we've developed a form for any changes to the administrator in the future, so that our office will be updating that information from a document that we will require the employer to complete in order to note who is the administrator, and then we'll provide them access in STARS.
Awesome. A few more questions here in the chat, Joann. Going to the filter function that you quickly were demonstrating in a few of the areas, will there be filter options to filter by position?
That would be for corp. I haven't looked at a corp employer. Do you know, Robert, if that's an option?
That's a great question. I don't believe at this point that is a filterable field, because as Joann said, we do only really record positions within our system currently for corp and elected officials. However, it is a field within STARS itself on the line of business side of the house. And so as we start experiencing the portal more frequently, we can certainly look at making requests for configurations to have that as a potential filterable field. But that is something that we would need to coordinate with our vendor. But at this point, I don't believe it's a specific field filterable. Question from the perspective of the policies tab. Will this policy tab, will the cancer insurance also include those for corp as well on that roster?
Yes, I believe it does, because that information is, if I'm not mistaken, is used for billing purposes, and for tracking. Because I know corp is different for that, for the cancer insurance program, but more than likely, yes. I haven't seen a corp employer yet, but yes, I would say that yes, that information will be available for corp employers also.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, Joanne, you are correct. Depending on which employer you are logging into, so if you're an employer who has both public safety, corp, and even elected officials, if you're an individual who has that specific access to each one of those employers, once you log in, like Joanne was showing at the beginning, where she was going between local board versus an employer, the same thing would occur if you have access to multiple employers. So if you're logging in to the portal as the corp employer, then that policy tab would be specific to those individuals in corp who are enrolled into the cancer insurance program. So yes, Joanne, you're correct.
Thank you.
A couple questions related to the payment side of the tab. First question is, once we go live or launch in STARS, we will no longer be using eBill. Is that a correct statement, Joanne?
That is correct. That is correct. At launch, you'll need to go in and add that bank account in order for payments to occur.
And a follow-up on that particular question, Joanne, are we able to have multiple accounts set up to pay for contributions?
Yes, there is that opportunity to add multiple accounts and to I believe to indicate, if I'm not mistaken, Robert, to indicate that type of where that payment is coming from.
Correct. Yeah, you can have multiple accounts set up there. You would obviously want to make sure when you're setting it up, I believe there's a field there to kind of identify it, by a nickname or something to that sort. So if you are someone who has a particular account that pays out for public safety versus an account for public safety fire versus public safety police, you could certainly indicate that as the nickname. But obviously, as you're going through the payment process, you have to select which account you're going to be paying out of. But yes, you do have the ability to have multiple accounts on the record.
Thank you.
Question related to the secure messaging. Would you continue to email, would an employer continue to email our office directly or use secure messaging to communicate?
That's a good question. I'm sure we'll be using both formats as we move forward into this. It's nice to know that the STARS environment, if you have specific questions regarding members or uploads or information that's in this environment, that you do have that secure way to communicate back and forth in order to get that resolved. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be using both, but with it being with this information being available in STARS, it's probably a much more secure way to communicate, especially if there's PII attached with documents that we may both be reviewing.
And then the last question is just more operational for these meetings. Will Zoom links be available for each of these upcoming employer check-ins?
The Zoom meeting links we're sent in um, in the communication that we provided on Friday and Monday, and then also on the STARS webpage, the Zoom link information is there also. So if it's needed, there's a couple resources that you can go to get that Zoom meeting link.
Just a
Any other?
couple more questions, Joanne.
Okay.
Question on the file testing that's been completed for contributions up through this point. Have contribution files been processed when manual adjustments are required?
I'm sorry.
I think the question
Yeah.
here is, have we tested files both from a full contribution payroll perspective, as well as testing files that are adjustments? Because as you demonstrated just quickly through the import process, they're separate imports. So I think the question is kind of, if memory serves right now in our portals, adjustments as well as normal payroll can be in the same file. In the future state, they're two separate files. So regular, what we call work reports on a per pay period basis are reported through the regular work report process and the regular work report imports. For adjustments, if you're adjusting a prior reported payroll, that's a separate adjustment work report file that's imported. And so that would go through a separate import process, validation process, etc. And to answer the question related to testing, yes, there has been testing in both regards.
So this is Stacy with the City of Phoenix. Can I just ask with that, like we have employees who return from military leave and maybe it's 2 years. When I listen to you, Robert, it sounds like we're gonna go to a different area. Now on the payroll file, I mean, it's processed where we've have the documents and we've done the review on that calculation, and it's paid through the payroll file on our normal payday. So, um, with that type of scenario, because we have manual adjustments every payroll, um, we would be removing them possibly for the file if we couldn't alter them from the normal contribution file and have to manually enter their information in the self-service portal somewhere else because
Well,
because they're prior period adjustments. And maybe you want to get
right,
into this more in training, but I mean, it's one thing testing a file, and that's nothing's particular about it. It's just a normal file. There's
right,
no,
right, right.
drop change it, dates change, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, I guess it just depends on how you as an employer would want to operate, because when we rolled out the spec documents for contributions, it was indicated that there are two separate files. There's the normal work report payroll file that you would process through the import for contributions, normal work reports, normal payroll. Then there's also adjustment files, which also can go through the same function of importing through the system, but they have to be, it's a separate file process. It's a separate, in our system, it's now going to be considered a billing adjustment to a prior payroll. So it can't be incorporated in the normal payroll contribution
Mhm.
file. It could still be a file that you have generated out of your system, but
Mhm.
just for adjustments, and then that can be imported and
Okay.
validated and go through the
Oh,
billing adjustment process. Or if you want to
okay.
manually report those, um, you could manually report them through that
Okay.
adjustment process that Joann quickly showed,
Mhm.
where if you want to
Okay.
do a manual adjustment. I hope that makes sense, Stacy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's helpful. We'll have to let it marinate in our operations and have some thoughts on it. But yeah, okay, that does help. Thank you, Robert.
Perfect, perfect. Great.
Thank-
Couple more questions, Joann.
Yes.
will there be how-to manuals for stars?
Yes, there will be. We are developing that as part of the training that will be provided later or in next year. But yes, we are developing those tools also. Oh, excuse-
And then a couple questions on the security access. Can the security be segregated based upon users, where you have someone who does contributions versus someone who reports health insurance deductions? Would those ESS user profiles be segregated based upon those type of roles?
Yes, it will be that way. And between the administration part and the employer info part, where you add a contact and then take care of, add a user, you would be able to provide the access that is needed just for that individual in ESS. You guys have me talking too much today. But are there any other questions that we can help with?
I think this is still in the same line of the security access and segregation of duties. Will it still be a dual approval where one person uploads the contribution file and another approves the invoice for the payment?
Um, I'm, I'm, I vaguely know how that works in the current system, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, what I'm thinking is the imports will occur, the work reports will be created, and then someone else can have access to the actual payments part of it. It all depends on how the employer would like to set up that path on their end to be able to get that process completed. The same person can do all the steps, or there can be set up to have separate other individuals complete it, or just certain parts of it, is, if I'm not mistaken, the way that it is able to be configured for a user in STARS.
And you are correct, Joann. And just to kind of piggyback and follow up a little bit about that, as Joann says, it's a configurable process within stars. And so that's one of the reasons why we're looking to hopefully get this pilot program going as well later this year, to kind of get a little bit more feedback in that type of area. Because what I would state at this point in terms of our current configuration of users, we didn't want to go too detailed in all the different user types and what tabs they would see, because we do know that there's some employers where it's you may be a small shop, and so the person needs to have access to everything. And so we haven't really fully configured user types to such a granular level to do things like, this person is just contribution reporting, this user is just payment reporting, this user is just, you know, the policies tab user. It's a little bit more general in that we have administrator, ESS user, local board user. I think payroll is a user type. I don't remember all the user types right now in front of me, but our hope through that pilot, doing that piloting with our cross section of employers, we can get a little bit more feedback in that regard, and maybe look at how we can configure additional user roles to kind of accomplish some of those goals. But we didn't want to make it so restrictive and so granular that it impacted some of those employers where that granular level needed would impact their ability to function. So great question. But I think some of that I would see being further configured as we all experience in production the new system.
Thank you, Robert. Do we have any other questions we can help with?
I think we have accomplished all the questions in the chat, so
Okay,
we're good on the chat side, Joann.
thank you. See here, where am I? Okay. If there are no other questions, again, if you have questions about the contribution files or demographic files that you want to go ahead and have tested, or if you need the spec documents, please reach out to Harold or myself, and we can get you that information. And again, next month, sorry, I need time to process. Next month, we're going to be covering contribution, submitting contributions, and we will go from there. So thank you all for attending. We really appreciate your logging in and joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you all.